Hello and welcome to this video. In the other video, we describe functions and what functions are. We said a function is like a box that outputs a result for an input given. For example, if I put x inside, I get a y. And the rule that maps x to y is the function f of x. Not all rules are functions, by the way. Now, it means that if I were to reverse the rule and I put y inside, it should return me the original input x. This new reverse function is known as f inverse of x, written as this, f negative 1 of x, or simply f negative of x, as f inverse of x. This is known as the inverse of the function. The inverse of the function. Now we can be given a function, for instance, f of x equals, and we can be asked to find the inverse of this function. Now, as stated earlier, the function takes a value and outputs another value. So, for example, if I were to put 2 inside this function, f of 2 would have been 2 multiplying 2 plus 1, which gives me 5. It means that if I put 5 in the inverse of the function, I get 2. So f inverse of 5 should give me 2. But sometimes we want the rule itself so that we can try any value at all, even if we don't have the function value, so that we get a general rule for the inverse of the function. It means if the function f of x equals 2x plus y gives me a value y, then f inverse of y should give me x. Meaning that if I'm to make x the subject or find x, then the value of x is going to be f inverse of y, which is the inverse of the function. So the function that we have, f of x equals 2x plus 1, means if I find a way of making x the subject, the other value on my left hand or my right hand becomes the inverse of the function. So we can have this f of x, then we make x the subject, so minus 1 equals x, all divided by 2. This means that all of this expression becomes the inverse of the function. However, f of x here will no longer be f of x because f of x in general terms is the functional value, but we want a value that we put inside. So instead of it being the functional value or the results, we now change it and make it the input value, since it is now the input of the inverse function. If so, then this value here will no longer be the input, but rather be the output. So this place will now be my y, and this place will be x minus 1 all over 2. Now the y we are talking about here is not f of x, not the normal function. Now it is the inverse function, so we write it as f inverse of x, and that is x minus 1 all over 2. The original function was f of x equals 2x plus 1. It means if I am to put any value into f of x, the result I get if I put in f inverse of x will give me the original value I placed in f of x. For example, if I find f of 4 and I get 9, if I put 9 into f inverse, I should be able to get 4. Let's try other questions and see how best we understand. For example, if I'm given f of x equals 5x plus 3, and I'm to find f inverse of x, what do? I equate this to y, so that I get 5x plus 3 equals y, and I make x the subject, 5x equals y minus 3 divided by 5 divided by 5. X is now equal to y minus 5 all over, y minus, x is now equal to y minus 3 all on 5. Then now we redefine our variables and say that f inverse of x is now equal to x minus 3 all over 5. Let's try another question. If I have f of x equals 2x minus 7, find f inverse of x. I equate this to y so that I make x the subject, then I'll get y plus 7 equals 2x, divide both sides by 2, x equals y plus 7 over 2. Afterwards, I redefine my variables and I get f inverse of x is equal to x plus 7 over 2. This is how you find the inverse of any linear function. Try and see if you can answer these questions on your own. And see you in the next video. We tackle how to find the inverse of any rational function, which is a function of the form ax plus b over cx plus d. But before that, try and answer all the questions and test yourself. Get more questions to solve. Put your answer in the comments and let's see how well you did. See you in the next video. Hit the subscribe button and share the video to your friends.